So welcome to Audio with Argha, and today we'll be looking at a very interesting IEM. I had my first experience with Ice Lab with their Prismatica, which is under $1,000 IEM, all BA, and it sounded really promising. It might not be the best at that price point, but it did something that really took a place in my heart at that time. It had that thin, it had that organic timbre, the tonality. Although I don't associate thin or thick with timbre that much, but it was kind of that, and I liked it a lot. It has excellent tech, it had excellent control over the frequency spectrum, and I was a fan of Ice Lab by then. Now, the recent flagship, the Spectrumica, is now in my hands, and we shall see how it performs. So, to start things off, $2,000 is not really something that everyone can afford. It is a premium side of the segment, and we will review this IEM based on that. This IEM provides an esoteric tuning, and we will be looking for that. We'll be analyzing that, we'll be seeing how it performs with each genres, we will be inspecting its timbre characteristics, and at last we will see how it performs at its price point and what are its competitors. So to give you a brief, this is kinda neutral, warm kinda IEM, and this IEM is one of the best IEM that I had the fortune to listen to experience any recorded live performances. This might be the best IEM for any live performances out there. I will explain how it works later in the tuning section, but watching live performances with this IEM is extremely engaging, and you feel like you are in that concert, which is very hard for even a headphone to replicate, let alone an IEM. In the packaging, you will receive a lot of tips. I think there are three kind of tips. One is silicone based, one is the normal ear tip, one is pure black, and I will tell you about all the tips and how it affects the sound signature. So in this section of the review, I used the track Somewhere We Used to Know by Kane from Hope and Dreams. So I'm going to read all the descriptions from my phone, so my eyes will be right there. The Rose Techniques Sound Cocoon Liquid tips give it a mild V-shaped. It is fairly open in stage, good sub and mid-bass balance is there, defined treble. When you plug in the Divinous Velvet, it is more mid-range centric. I had a problem with the mid-range previously. This solved the problem. Mid-bass is light, yet sub-bass is there. Treble is a bit more in quantity, more open and rounded soundstage with better details you can notice with the Divinous Velvet tips. Now, if you come to the stock tips, the orange stock tips are very textured in representation. Center stage is focused and upper mids are elevated by a hint. Low end is a bit subdued in the nature. Resolution takes a good amount of boost. It feels anemic overall, but it is kinda good for orchestra. If we talk about the black stock tips are very dynamic sounding. It is kinda close sounding, to be honest. It is mild V-shaped, very good imaging. A hint less textured can be observed with this. Now if we come to the clear stock tips, this one makes the soundstage a bit round and fairly average in terms of width and depth. Good texturing, a mild upper mid-range boost, a hint less dynamic though, very controlled bass response, yet it is very lively in the treble. So that's how these tips perform with Spectrumica. So you can do a lot of tunings, mild tuning adjustments with the tips with this IEM, and I think it gives you a freedom that you will need in this IEM, because being a esoteric kind of tuning, you might feel that mid-range kind of feels a bit less. You can pick up the mid-range with tips. You might feel that treble is kind of dark. You can do that with Divinous Velvet. So it gives you a proper fidelity or feel to play around with this IEM, which I really liked. If you come to the objective analysis of this IEM, let's start with the sub-bass. This IEM was provided to me by Audio Geeks India. They have a pretty nice community in Facebook. Make sure to join them. Although no one paid or influenced me anything to say good or bad about any products, all thoughts and opinion are mine. I gave a link in the description of their Facebook group. Please do visit them. The sub-bass amplitude is high, but it is not physical. It is not that much boomy to begin with, but the amplitude is there to so that you don't feel the absence of the sub bass. It is not as exaggerated as the mid bass, but it is there. It is punchy, it is slammy, it is organically boomy. But what surprised me the most is how much texture and details it has in the sub bass. It is just on par with every TOTL I have heard, and if not the best. Texturing details are very good with this IEM in the sub bass representation. The attack is very natural. The decay though felt a bit quick to give you a sustained release of the bass notes, but the overall sub bass stays in the whole range no matter how the busy the tracks the music got. The mid bass is quite thumpy, quite punchy. It is on the face, and the amplitude or the volume of the mid bass is quite high. It is as textured as the sub bass. It is very textured and resolving at the same point. Although it is not tight, and I say that in a good way. It is not that the sustainability of the bass notes gets erupted very quickly. It is very organic. It is very lifelike kind of signature. It is not overly bloomy or overly fast. Like the attack is on the faster side, but the decay is on the kind of slower side. The mid range is quite warm to begin with, especially the lower mid range, but it is not on the face or overly lush to give you a sign of distinctiveness in the male vocals or any instrument that acquires the lower range of the frequency spectrum. The details and resolution here are apt for the price it is retailing, but it is not extremely high to blow my brains out, but it is kind of mediocre. One thing that bothered me is how the busyness of a track affects the lower mid range or the vocals overall. If the track gets a bit busy, the vocals take a backseat. If the tracks are kind of like in live performance, in acoustic performance, if the track is not busy, then the vocals take a good stage or stage position, and it conveyed the vocalist in a truest fashion. But if the track gets busy, you can feel the vocals get lost in the mix a bit, which I didn't like that much. The 1 kilohertz region is strong. It is not sacrificed for what I can say, the added depth to the stage. It is naturally there. And to be honest, at very loud volumes, I had to EQ this 1 kilohertz area a bit to make it comfortable for my listenings, though this region gives you a lot of textures and details and upfront nature of the vocalist. But it goes without saying that the 1 kilohertz to 2 kilohertz or 1.5 kilohertz region, for this region, the whole male vocalist might sound a bit dry at certain tracks. It is not something, it is not big of an issue to complain about, but certain tracks I can feel the dryness of the vocalist, so it is that. The female vocals or the upper mid range felt a bit dark to my ears. The airiness, the sizzliness, the sparkles are a bit missing. On the other hand, this esoteric kind of tuning provides with the longer listening sessions. Like whenever I had to plug out the IEMs from my ears, I was really sad. It was so comfortable in that region. Although the things that I like most in the upper mid range were missing, and I can deny that. Again, the treble is tuned in such a way that you won't feel the treble or the upper mids are missing anywhere because of the 4K or 5K peak, but the edges that makes the sound harsh is reduced, I think intentionally, to give you a more headroom in volume. So it is that it is an exchange that you have to make. There is no avoidance of this. The details, the textures, everything related to the upper mid range is there, and it is in full quantity. You won't miss the details and resolution and all the ornamentation even a bit. There are two things that I liked a lot in the upper mid range. First of all, the body of the female vocalist or the instruments are very full, very weighted, which is not present in the lower mid-range that much. And when the tracks get busy, the upper mid-range doesn't get involved in the business of the track that much. So these two things provided a lot of likability factor of this IEM to me. And yeah, the treble on this IEM is one of the most interesting part of the IEM. The whole frequency spectrum really depends on this region, and I never felt or heard anything like it before. Although you can say that there is an essence of this fluidity that this IEM can offer can be noticed in some higher end IEMs like the Supreme V3, which retails around $6,400. But apart from that IEM, I haven't noticed any IEM that provides this fluidity, this liquidity in treble. The treble is extremely detailed, is incredibly textured and vividly defined. It never felt fatiguing. Everything in the treble was pitch perfect to the minute details. Although, yeah, the 10 kilohertz could have been used a little bit upliftment, but that's completely due to my HRTF and not for average HRTF. So, yeah, it's pitch perfect for the price, of course. The thing that surprised me most is how seamless it can transition from the lower treble to the air region. The air is completely liquid. You won't feel any crossover interference with any of the frequency range. Like, I'm trying to define how the treble is with this IEM, but it is simply fluid in one word. Now coming to the subjective part of this IEM, let's talk about the soundstage. Although everyone I was talking to told that it has a very vast sound stage, but I don't feel that. Of course, it's dependent on year to year, but I didn't feel that the stage was very expensive. I mean, the stage was there, the height is there, everything was there, it is spherical, it is holographic and all, but the stage is not like stretched in such a way that feels vast. Like take Ruby for example. Ruby's stage feels like it is just extended out of the body, which is not there in this. Does this makes this IEM sound bad? Not even a bit. Even this thing helped this IEM a lot to project the tonality in such a fashion that everything feels personal and everything feels really concentrated. The layering of the stages are just too much precise. I like there are few IEMs that I heard that can do this dense of staging. Annihilator does that, Spectrumica does that, Camelot does that, but it is not huge to my ears. Although it is not lifelike, like you won't feel like something was there playing an instrument, and you can, if you close your eyes, you can't imagine them. But the sense of atmosphere, every details that you have on the track at each position is vividly projected to you without any layers or without any blurriness. It's just too good. Now coming to the imaging on this thing is laser precise. The accuracy of the placements of the instruments and the objects are so good that I can't even describe. It is almost on par with Annihilator. The one thing that Annihilator does better is, no matter how busy the track got, Annihilator places the instrument from start to finish at a spot which this might lack a bit of confidence in, but apart from that, it is very, very good in imaging. When a track performs panning or sweeping, this kind of atmospheric nature of this IEM feels like unearthly. It is just too good. Now coming to the dynamics of this IEM, I can't say I was impressed by the dynamics that much. It was apt for the price, it was fairly well, but it's not super dynamic to begin with. Don't get me wrong, it is not narrow either. The from the point of transience response, it is fairly open, it is fairly big. There is no narrowness or claustrophobic presentation that you can feel in the harmonics. It is not there by any means, and it is just there. It was apt for the price. It is not something to write home about, but it is there. Now coming to the resolution part, it is fairly resolving for the price. Like it might not be as resolving as the Ruby, but again, at this price point, at this level of technicalities, you are like dependent on the track itself rather than the IEMs or headphones. So 90% of the songs that you will listen to with this IEM won't be out resolve this transducer. So there is no point complaining about the details. It is aptly detailed. It is just a notch below the Ruby. And yeah, now coming to the timbre part, the drums are good. Upper mids might feel a dark in the drums a bit. The sub bass might feel a bit blunted. Violin is a bit romanticized. The body felt a bit missing. Upper mids felt a bit scooped too. Guitars are incredibly good sounding with crunch and attack at its fullest thrust. Pianos are fairly good. The low end is needed a bit to add the weight of the instrument. The upper registers are perfected. A bit of crunch and bite was still needed. Saxophone was a bit thin sounding, so it is fairly well for a tonality like that. Now, coming to the comparisons, there is nothing that I can compare it to. Like I can compare it to Camelot, but Camelot with the cable that I'm reviewing it with is a lot more expensive, like $1,500 more expensive. If I compare it with Ruby, again, it is with the cable I'm reviewing it with, it is a lot more expensive. If I compare it with U12T, again, it is a very different nature of IEM. This is not something that I can compare it with. I tried to explain as much as I can with this video, so take this video as a reference point. If there is any future IEMs that comes to me that contributes to this same tonality of IEM, I will review that. There is at this point I can call it a Ice Lab house sound because there is some similarities between the Prismatica and the Spectrumica. But yeah, this IEM is really surprising, and I think it is worthy to become the IEM of the year. That's my time. I'm your host Argha, and see you in my next video. Peace.